I'm Peter Navarro, and in this extended excerpt from my documentary film series Crouching Tiger, we are going to take an in-depth look at China's massive and ongoing cyber war against both the American military and the American economy. As a result of this espionage, a rapidly militarizing China has managed to steal almost every major weapons system of the American Pentagon, while Chinese military commanders are even now readying plans to attack key elements of America's infrastructure, such as oil pipelines and electric power plants, in the event of conflict or war. As American defense expert Richard Fisher warns in this film, China's cyber threat is truly frightening.
We're in a new age of warfare where, unlike the past where it's boots on the ground, we're going to have bits in the air.
The Chinese have, I believe, second only to the Russians today, an extremely capable offensive cyber program.
The Chinese, for at least a decade, have developed a worldwide program of using both military and civilian intelligence personnel to conduct cyber attacks against both governments and the private sector.
China's capabilities affect us in a number of ways, starting even before a confrontation might exist.
What they're doing is they're looking for that military edge, both by improving their own weapons and, more importantly, knowing how to beat ours.
They have the ability to go into our computer systems, potentially adversely affect logistical support, troop placements, the ability to move weapon systems, supplies, to be able to support forward projection in the Pacific region.
And China's alleged hacking could be deadly for U.S. forces on the battlefield.
If you mess with that software, the airplane won't fly, the missile will miss its target, and the ship might not get to where it was intended to go.
If you then go to the next area, the next phase of a potential combat, you have to worry about whether they can affect the ability to actually man your systems, or the ability to take out satellite transmissions so that the forward information that our troops, Navy, Air Force, etc. might need for placement, for targeting, all of those could be at risk.
But it's not just military targets that China's cyber soldiers are taking dead aim at. Through China's doctrine of unrestricted warfare, the People's Liberation Army is also planning to use tools like kinetic cyber attacks to disrupt, disable, or destroy everything from an enemy's banking and finance systems to its civilian infrastructure.
Kinetic cyber attacks are those in which you not simply spy on the other nations, but you implant malware which leads to destruction of the infrastructure or hardware of the other nation.
Whether it's critical national infrastructure, our water treatment plants, our hospitals, our electric grid.
The first person attacks in cyber gets a great advantage.
This isn't fantasy, this isn't paranoia, these capabilities exist today.
And they may strike first in cyber and we could be crippled.
While China's growing suite of cyber weapons are indeed formidable in and of themselves on the battlefield, China's cyber warriors have arguably done far more damage through their outright theft of the blueprints for many of America's top weapons systems.
The American intelligence community has on a number of occasions been surprised by the quality of the systems that the Chinese have been able to field. Part of the reason they've been able to do that is they've been stealing intellectual property from commercial producers, but also from military developers and manufacturers in the United States.
China's primary means of gaining information about American weapons is espionage. Either classic cloak and dagger, or in the last decade, China has become the most effective practitioner of cyber espionage.
The Aegis battle management system was one of the first targets of Chinese industrial espionage and cyber espionage. The Chinese were not only able to steal the Aegis technology, that is the Aegis battle management system, which is at the heart of our Navy today, but they've actually incorporated it into their new and modern warships, which are now coming online.
The Chinese stole
reams and reams of data on our missiles back in the 1990s under the Clinton administration. All of a sudden, they had intercontinental ballistic missiles that could effectively reach the United States. During the Bush years, they stole information on the F-35.
Not only did the Chinese steal secrets about this important new advanced fifth-generation fighter, but they're actually incorporating those secrets into their own stealth fighters, as was demonstrated recently with the deployment of the new J-20, that's China's new stealth fighter.
During the Obama years, they've stolen information on our drones.
And they've begun to deploy weapon systems like unmanned aerial vehicles that resemble their American counterparts down to the last screw and bolt, because they seem to be based on designs that the Chinese obtained, presumably through cyber penetration.
It's not just that they're taking this and duplicating, it's what weaknesses are they finding in those systems that they can actually use to defeat those weapon systems. They may not need to build a V-22 Osprey, but when they face one, they sure may know how to beat it.
It's interesting to see how the targeting has changed, because DoD suffered significant losses, we can tell. They made a move to harden their networks, make them harder targets, and so the Chinese then switched to the prime contractors, the big defense contractors. DoD then went and worked with the contractors, got them to harden their networks, and the Chinese switched to the subcontractors. And now DoD is working with the subcontractors. It looks like the Chinese are switching to some of our foreign partners. So they're determined, they're inventive, and every place we close up a hole, they find a new one.
We don't take cybersecurity seriously, and we don't take defense secrets seriously. And really interestingly, the president, when he was about to have this big summit with the Chinese leader, and they were talking about cybersecurity will be this major part of the summit, the president himself actually said, I'm not as concerned about the Chinese stealing our military secrets. Nations do that all the time. He was trying to say he was more concerned about the economic espionage, stealing from our companies. But that tells you a huge amount of how unserious, not just the current administration is, but most American administrations have been about protecting our interests.
And the number of weapons of the United States that have been compromised by Chinese cyber espionage is too long to even contemplate. It is very frightening.
It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention to these news over the last 5-6 years, really. Everything under the sun has been taken by the Chinese, not just from military contractors or government agencies, but private companies that are manufacturing commercial technologies. And now we're seeing sort of the results of that. It's striking to see that full list, because you wonder.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, we do hear about this a lot, but when you see this list of all these weapon systems, that's a little surprising, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it makes you wonder if there is anything left that they don't yet have, because it's a pretty comprehensive list of every cutting-edge weapon system that we've built over the last decade or so.
So anything is fair game to steal.